The overriding theme and challenge we face in life can be observed by looking at a single sign, not in the natal chart, but in the Navamsa or the 9th divisional chart. Now this sign is called the Svamsa. And in this series, I'm going to explain how we first calculate the 9th divisional chart in order to find the Svamsa sign. And then we're going to explain why the Navamsa chart in general is so important to understanding who we are and what our deeper purpose is in life, and why it's the second most used chart in Vedic astrology besides the natal chart. And then I'm going to go through each sign individually, Aries through Pisces. So if your Svamsa is in Aries, what will that mean for your life? And we're going to go through all of the signs and describe the characteristics of having your Svamsa land in each sign. So if you're new or unfamiliar with Vedic astrology, let's first discuss how we find this position and then explain a little bit about the background of this sign, the Svamsa. This technique comes from the Gemini system of Vedic astrology. Quite simply, the Svamsa is where the Atmakaraka planet is in the Navamsa. The Atmakaraka planet is the planet with the highest degrees and minutes in your natal chart. This planet is the planet with the greatest amount of influence in your conscious awareness. So for example, if the planet with the highest degrees in the natal chart is Jupiter, your way of navigating the world and using your mental faculties, those habits will be very Jupiterian. And of course, we have each planet within us operating in a specific way, but the Atmakaraka has the strongest pull on how we see, respond, and think about the world around us. So again, it's a very easy planet to find in your chart, and it has a profound amount of importance. So find that planet with the highest degrees and minutes in your chart, and that is your Atmakaraka. You are that planet. So now what we have to do is find where that planet is located in the Navamsa chart, the 9th divisional chart. And the idea of dividing each zodiac sign is used in not just Vedic astrology, but also Hellenistic, Persian, and Egyptian astrology. For example, in Hellenistic and Persian astrology, dividing each sign into 3 divisions of 10 degrees each, they're called decans, and each of those divisions is ruled by a specific planet. And similarly, in Egyptian terms, the method of Egyptian terms, those terms are found by dividing each sign into 5 parts. Though the divisions are unequal to each other, and to this day, the calculation for those divisions remains unknown. In other words, we don't know how the Egyptians came up with these divisions that they called terms. And similarly, in the Egyptian terms, each division is ruled by a planet. Vedic astrology has the most extensive use of sign divisional charts. And there are actually 12 primary divisional charts. And they start with the natal chart, which is the basic chart that we all know. And then the divisional 2 chart, we can shorthand it to the D2, which is dividing each sign into 2 divisions, which would make each division 15 degrees. And then there's the D3, which is dividing each sign into 3 divisions of 10 degrees. And likewise, we have the D4, D7, D9, D10, D12, D16, D20, D24, D27, D30, D40, D45, and D60. And theoretically, you could divide each sign into any division that you would want. The divisions that I just went over are considered the most important divisionary charts. So you notice I didn't mention the D5 or the D8. Well, you could divide those, you could divide each sign into those other numbers, or the D17, the D18. But in the tradition of Vedic astrology, for various reasons that are too extensive, and you could do a whole class on why these 12 main charts are used, these are the primary charts, and they each have a signification for a certain area of your consciousness and how your life will play out. So these are called the Varga charts, and they play a very important part the more deeply you want to go into study of a person's mental habits, but also the concrete areas of their life. And so it's one major reason why Vedic astrology is separated from other schools of astrology, is because there's more charts, and there's more tradition of going into depth into the specifics of each of those charts, and it's kind of dividing up your consciousness into different sections and then studying those different sections. So a central difference in the Vedic system is that each of these divisions within a division chart is another sign. It's not a planet ruling over it, like I explained how the decans or the Egyptian terms, they're ruled by planets. Each divisional chart is a sign that rules it, or it is a sign. And so each divisional chart also has a very specific way to calculate it and how we populate the divisions with certain signs. It's not the same way of calculation of what sign rules which division. And so the most widely used and important of the divisional charts is the D9 chart, the Navamsa, as we've already spoken about. And it's often referenced as the marriage chart by traditional Vedic astrologers. So seeing how your married life will work out, it's looked at the Navamsa because that is one of the most common questions in traditional Vedic astrology. But it goes a lot deeper into what this chart is, and that's what we're going to look into from an esoteric level in the second episode of this series. And so before we dive into what the D9 means and the profundity of it and what it means for our lives, let's first see how we calculate it. And I want to talk about how we calculate it first, instead of just simply go to your astrology software and plug it in, a Vedic astrology software, and plug it in and see what it is. Let's really look at how we do it, and then you could easily do it shorthand from memory if you're able to memorize it, but also I'm going to put a graph at the bottom of this video that you could easily find your Navamsa and your Svamsa position without even having to run a calculation. So if we divide 30 degrees into 9 divisions, we get 3 degrees 20 minutes per division. The next question is how do we know what sign is that division, each division? The Navamsa, fortunately, is very easy to calculate. Just count the order of the signs. So, for example, Aries, the first sign. The first 3 degrees 20 minutes of Aries, that first 3 degrees 20 minutes, that first Navamsa of Aries is Aries. So from 3 degrees 20 minutes till 6 degrees 40 minutes is Taurus, and so on until the chart ends. And so reference, again, the chart in the description, and you can take any planet's degree in minutes. So find where the planet is in your chart, the degree in minutes, and then find out which Navamsa it falls in, which division. And so doing this, by creating these divisions in each sign, we create the Navamsa chart. So now let's return to the Atmakaraka. Find the planet with the highest degrees in your chart and see what Navamsa it falls in. That sign is your Svamsa, the theme of this series, your Svamsa sign. So now let's take a chart for today at 1 p.m. in New York City, October 20th. As you can see, Mercury is at 27 degrees 22 minutes in Libra. The Sun is at 27 degrees 2 minutes in Libra. They're both 27 degrees. Mercury has the upper hand by 20 minutes, which makes Mercury the Atmakaraka. We don't count Rahu or Ketu when it comes to Atmakarakas, the north and south nodes. Those are not conscious planets. So those will never count as an Atmakaraka planet. So if a baby was born today at 1 p.m., their Atmakaraka would be Mercury. Mercury is in the last 3 degrees 20 minutes of Libra, so let's look at our graph. That puts Mercury in the sign Gemini in the Navamsa chart. So the person's birth date at October 20th, 1 p.m., their Svamsa is Gemini. And as I mentioned, in order to understand the significance of the Svamsa, we have to understand the significance first of the Navamsa. And we have to look at that chart more in depth, which we'll look at into the next video.